Young Justice returned this week to HBO Max with a brand new episode entitled A Tale of Two Sisters. I'm Cape Joel, and this is the video series where I give my thoughts and feelings on the episode that was, while also shouting out any comic book Easter eggs or references I can find. So with that out of the way, let's get to it. So then, last week we saw the conclusion of the Mars arc, and this week we begin with a new storyline centered firmly on Artemis and the West Crock extended family. I like the idea of Young Justice adopting a more arc-based storytelling method. And I've mentioned this before because it actually feels a lot closer to how actual comic books tell their stories, and B, it ensures that the spotlight is shared with the show's entire, very massive cast 4 seasons in. Now, if you really twisted my arm and asked me what my favorite ongoing character journey from season 1 was, I would probably say Artemis, not just because I'm a massive Green Arrow comic fan and her stories are always Arrow family adjacent, but also because I think it's amazing how much Greg Weisman and the other writers were basically able to create this Artemis we all know and love in the show from bits and pieces of comic book continuity and lore that never really fit together the way they did until Young Justice. Now, as we check in on Artemis, we see what she's been up to. Her and Will Harper are still co-parenting Leanne. She teaches literature at the local college, A Tale of Two Cities to be exact, a work that keeps coming back multiple times throughout the episode, as well as inspiring the name of the episode. We can also see that she's in a pretty good place now regarding Wally's death, as she's back on the market dating again, while also still finding time to fight crime by night with the rest of the Young Justice team. As nice as this routine Artemis has found for herself is, it's all shattered when Dick and Calder come to her with news about Superboy's death on Mars. Man, do Aqualad and Nightwing ever come to this poor lady with good news, I ask? Losing a teammate and a friend, especially one as good as Connor, is never easy, but it hits Artemis like a ton of bricks and opens up a bunch of wounds that she thought had healed a long time ago regarding Wally and his death. Artemis's heart also breaks for Megan, as she knows better than just about anyone else on the team what it's like to lose the love of your life. Thematically, I really felt all of this played into the season's bigger thesis about adulthood and adult life. If season 3 was all about feeling like you're not the young person anymore, then season 4 so far seems to be about that very sad but very real point in adult life when you start going to more funerals than weddings. With so much loss all around her, Artemis also begins to dwell on the past and her sister Cheshire, another person, despite all of her good hero work, she never seemed to be able to save. We're treated actually to a very effective little flashback that manages to say a whole lot with so few words. We get a glimpse of the torturous training regiment Sportsmaster forced his 2 daughters through, all while wearing his hand-me-down mask, half because part of being a supervillain is fighting well in costume, and also because Crusher really doesn't see his children as individuals, only as extensions of himself. Speaking of Cheshire, she's also at a major crossroads in her life right now. We see her return to Infinity Island to once and for all try and break ties with the League of Shadows and the Sensei. That's a lot easier said than done. In fact, the Sensei begins to wonder if Jade is just here on some sort of self-imposed suicide mission. The mood changes considerably though when Talia al Ghul makes the scene, flanked by Red Hood, and oh look, it's little Damian Wayne in his baby clothes that already happen to be Robin colors. Geez, can Talia see the future too, on top of everything else she can do? Both women end up having quite the conversation about motherhood and children, and clearly Talia strikes a nerve with Cheshire, but more on that later on. Back with Artemis, we see a mysterious figure stalking her from the shadows while she's out in her car, which, yes, just so happens to be painted the exact same colors as her old costume. That's fun, I like that. This mysterious woman ends up getting met off at the pass by Arrowette and Arsenal, who proceed to fight her in what will be the first of actually a couple fight scenes this episode. I know, right? This episode had fight scenes, and to think all it took was having 4 very deliberately paced episodes that acted as a murder mystery and where no one moved their lips because of telepathy. See, what have I been saying all this time? Pinch a couple pennies here and there and the dollars will take care of themselves. Now, who exactly is this new character? Well, it turns out to be a redesigned version of Onyx Adams, who has to be probably one of the deepest cuts this show has done to date. For those who don't know, in the comics, she was a member of the League of Assassins who got involved with Green Arrow's old monastery before eventually moving to Gotham and and getting a really big push there for a couple years post-War Games before falling off the face of the earth pretty much until right now. Onyx says she's come to warn the members of the Young Justice team that Cassandra Savage, Vandal Savage's daughter, is going to try and infiltrate their team as a mole. Arsenal ends up with probably the best line of the entire episode by pointing out that lots of villains try and infiltrate their team. It's like it happens once a season or something. Here's the thing though, when Cassandra does show up, she's been horribly disfigured and mutilated. They can't be sure if her father did that for trying to leave or if it happened some other way. This also means the two now have the potential to be enemies, but they can't be sure which one is lying and which one is telling the truth. The question of who the real bad guy is only becomes harder to answer too after the team's convoy comes under attack by more shadow ninjas. Both women had the chance to run during the chaos, but not only did both stay, they actually helped during the fight itself. And oh, what a battle it was. How can you not love Will Harper, who traded his costumed life for a desk life using actual office supplies to battle ninjas? It's all just so wonderful. When it becomes clear that Artemis can't solve this problem on her own, she decides to turn to her team for help, and we're reminded just how many of them have villainous parents, be it Spoilers, Crappy Dad Cluemaster, or even Cassandra Cain the Orphan, who has two villainous parents in Lady Shiva and David Cain. It's made abundantly clear that the sins of the parents being delivered on their children is also going to be a major theme moving forward for this story arc. This episode also featured a very fun little comic shoutout that I get the feeling probably went over most people's heads. During the interrogation, one of the characters mentions that Cassandra leaving her father's side would be a real scandal. This is no doubt a reference to Vandal Savage's most famous child from the comics, Scandal Savage, star of one of my absolute favorite DC comics, The Secret Six. In fact, early on I was working under the impression that Cassandra would eventually be revealed to be this show's version of Scandal, but that's probably not the case considering that Cassandra is not from the comics, but actually a strange holdover from CW's Legends of Tomorrow where she first premiered. With no options left, Artemis decides the only person she can turn to, the only person who might understand the supervillainous mind and who also has first-hand experience with the light and the shadows, is none other than her sister Cheshire. Apparently Cheshire had still been in contact with her mother, the original Huntress, but was only able to be called back in case of emergencies, and Artemis certainly feels like this is an emergency. And so that was A Tale of Two Sisters, and I thought this newest arc got started in excellent fashion. The dysfunctional family drama of Artemis and Cheshire is just such fertile ground for storytelling, and the writers absolutely make a meal of it in this one. Up to and including actually revisiting old flashbacks from previous seasons and adding more material onto them, which I thought was a very nice touch. We also have the makings of another nice little mystery plot here to anchor the rest of the story as the heroes try and get to the bottom of who the real mole is. Personally, I don't think it's as easy as they're making it out to be. No doubt there is some unseen third layer that is going to complicate everything moving forward. Throw in some real fight scenes like the ones we all remember from the show's Saturday morning era, and you have yourselves the making of what I thought was a real damn good one. And so that'll just about do it for me and another week, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and favorite so you always know when a new Young Justice video is coming down the pipeline. And until we meet again, this has been Cape Joel, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.